Hello, everyone. My hope is that the things we discuss will apply equally, whether you're creating your first mission and vision statements or whether you're reviewing them as part of a planning process. The first is mission, your purpose, the reason your organization exists. The second is the result of your mission, your picture of the world if everything you attempt is successful. We're going to use a lot of driving metaphors today, so it may be useful to think of the mission as the vehicle by which you travel and the vision as your destination. Let's dig a little bit further into those ideas. First, there's the issue. Maybe there's a collection of issues you're bundling together. This is the because. A condition exists that has a negative social impact. People are hungry. More research needs to be done on a disease. Students need exposure to music or art to broaden their perspective on life. If we think of it as a journey, this is the reason that you go, that you decide to go. Your mission is what you do. We will create change for the greater good. It's an action. And in terms of our travel metaphor, this is the direction our compass is pointing toward. Our purpose is to get to California. That's our mission. Planning is the roadmap. It will allow us to decide where we're going to go, what direction we're going to take. We can use it to analyze the situation. Are we going to Northern California or Southern California? What's the best route? What time of year is best? We use planning to define and prioritize our goals, both our short-term goals and our long-term goals. Are we going next week? We're going next week. We're planning to arrive in 2 weeks. We use planning to identify strategies and tactics. We're going to conserve on gas. Are we going to use hotels? Are we going to stay in campgrounds? I know these are silly examples, but they're meant to be very basic to just kind of demonstrate the range of just to demonstrate the topics. Planning also is the means by which we develop tools by which we'll measure our progress. We have to have some means of measuring what we do as we go along. Action is the journey. This is our work. We'll deliver goods and services. We'll engage our audience in finding solutions. We'll collaborate with peer organizations. We'll apply what we learn for continuous improvement. Vision is the destination. It's our picture of the world if all our efforts are successful. We'll touch on each one of these elements today, but our primary focus is going to be on mission and vision and on how you go about articulating them. Before we start to try and put our mission and vision into words, let's do a little bit of analysis. Understanding how we relate to things that drive our organization will help us master the process of articulating them. The issues are likely to have come to you. They presented themselves as causes demanding some kind of response. The key here is that there's going to be strong emotion attached to them. People really care about these things. They care enough to start a nonprofit organization. The issues live in a context. Whatever we have decided to do, we've decided to do it because it's in some context of a community that needs to be served. This is essential to building our organization if it's going to be effective, is knowing where the drivers exist, what community we're trying to work with, what impact we're trying to have, what context is that in. It means nothing independently of where it stands. And then the other thing to remember is that the issues may grow and change. They're going to grow and change. To remain relevant, your nonprofit is going to have to do the same thing. Now, this is one of the reasons that nonprofits periodically review their missions, because the situation has changed, and they realize that they've got to, in order to remain relevant, they've got to change what they do. We'll talk about some specific examples of that in a little bit. Let's look at some differences between what your mission is and what you say about it. There is a very, very big difference. Mission itself is a noun defined as self-imposed duty or task. It's a calling, a vocation. An organization's mission is to act. But mission itself is an abstract concept. You can't see it, you can't hear it, you can't touch it. It's an idea. It's a static idea. It remains in one place. It's always in the same place. It's your magnetic north. It's always there to guide you. So it's enduring. It may get revisited and changed, but essentially it's an enduring concept. Your mission statement is a lively expression of your activity. It's meant to define, it's meant to engage, it's meant to inspire. It's a statement of your purpose. We're here because we do these things. We're going to achieve. It's a huge task for something that should be ideally short enough for anyone to recall at any time. So you've got this mission that's laden with emotion that may incorporate many concepts, and you somehow are in a process of trying to distill it down to a sentence or two sentences that everybody in the organization can remember just about at any point in time. It states or implies a purpose because you're about a purpose. It's the reason that you exist. It's a statement of action of what you'll do. We strive to end world hunger through equitable distribution of food. That implies that people are hungry. Your activity is the distribution of food, the equitable distribution of food, and your desired impact is the end of world hunger. I can tell you that a word like strive might be something that you spend 2 hours on in a session on developing your mission statement. We'll talk about that later too. Now, when do organizations examine their mission statement? When they create it, when they undertake a reconsideration of what their nonprofit does, such as when they're doing strategic planning, when events outside the organization take a significant turn. It could be political change. It could be that a cure comes along for whatever disease you may be focusing your attention on. Let's look at mastering vision distinctions. The vision itself, as we said, is where you intend to be, where you want to go. It needs to be clear. It should be ambitious enough to demonstrate that you're really trying to do something. It needs to be optimistic, and it needs to be rational in order for it to be believable. We will be the world's primary network for the distribution of food for people in need. That's an internal vision. An external vision would be, in the case of people who are oriented toward feeding the hungry, would be every person will have enough to eat. So as I said, we're looking at the definition of what you intend to do, what you can accomplish, and what you are likely to be able to succeed at accomplishing. Expect some very long discussions. Few things take longer than an organization's effort to define its mission. It's challenging to get everyone to think about your reason for being in a few words. More challenging to find the same words that satisfy everyone because it's emotionally laden. And because, for instance, my thesaurus lists 42 symptoms for the word help. My support may be your assist, but assist isn't strong enough. Well, support implies that people can't do it on their own. They can't do it on their own. That's why we're here. We're here. I have to admit that gets a little maddening at times. But it's important to let people work through the critical distinctions in order to come up with a result that everyone can own. Your staff needs to own this. Your board needs to own this. Your volunteers need to own this. And your supporters need to own this. One of my favorite quotes on this is from Blaise Pascal, who's even older than I am. And that is, I would have made this letter longer I would have made this letter longer. I have made this letter longer because I've not had time to make it shorter. In other words, it takes a long time to write a short statement. That's one of the other reasons that you can simply expect that you're going to have to put a long time into distilling this message. Okay. How are we going to get started? First, we want to identify the participants. Whether we're creating a mission statement or a vision statement, the process here starts to look pretty much the same. So we want to know who's going to participate. Well, the board owns the mission. They make the final decision. The staff has everyday responsibility for achieving the mission. They inform the discussion with a note of reality. Very important in a mission statement. And constituents, such as your clients or funders, can bring a very valuable perspective. You need to make it clear, though, that they're being invited to participate in order to offer their perspective, not to make the final decision. The last thing you want is for your biggest donor to think that they get to say what your mission statement should be. One of the ways to be effective is simply to create a task force of people who are interested in process and outcome, because that's what this is about. This is about process really more than outcome. Outcome is critical, but this is a process event. Keep it small, keep it agile. The more people you have involved in a discussion like this, the longer it's going to take to come out with the outcome that you're looking for. Let's define the process. It's a multi-step event. First thing is you're going to develop a task force of the most creative thinkers and writers available. They'll draft an initial statement for you. Once they've drafted an initial statement, that task force will present the draft to your board for general comment on message and tone. Caution, this is a wordsmith detour. This is where everyone gets involved in that specific word that they, or statement that they are more interested in than anything else. Once you take comment from your board, then the task force goes back and incorporates the board comments and comes up with the second draft. If you have access to a professional writer, this is the time to use that person. You can basically cut your effort in half by using a professional in here. And at the risk of sounding like I'm promoting my profession, let me just promote my profession here. Hire a professional if you can afford one. Don't hire me, I might make somebody cry. But this is a great time to use a facilitator. If you can afford to hire someone who has experience in this area, you're going to have a much smoother time. I'll come back to this later. And again, if you have access to a professional writer, whether that person is a volunteer or a professional, they're a professional. They're going to know how to get the message across. They're going to know how to distill it, get it into as few words and as clear a message as possible. So if you have access to those people, you'll benefit from using them. Once you've refined your message, the task force presents a second draft for preliminary approval. This should be a pretty close to what you're hoping to come out with statement. The board will comment on it again. There'll be a little bit of tinkering. And then the task force will go back and make necessary adjustments. By then you should have a statement that's ready for the board to adopt. There's a lot of back and forth. There's the original idea. There's the refinement. There's the presentation of the refinement. It goes back again. You can expect a lot of back and forth on this. The other thing to remember about a facilitator is that whoever facilitates can't really participate in generating the ideas because that person's job is to pull together other people's ideas and synthesize them. So that's just something to think about. If you do use whether you use a professional or not, if you can use somebody who's not part of the process to help move the process forward, that will be very beneficial. Sometimes people make the mistake of saying, oh, we'll have the executive director or the board chair facilitate this process. But that really takes them out of the loop. They can't be a good distillation of other people's ideas if there's a real need for their ideas to come into the process. Let's talk about anticipating the issues. I'm big on anticipation because it helps us use the group's time to maximum advantage. There's some things we'll have to address. We can prepare the participants by making sure we have information ready for them. The most obvious is a list of things that we do. Simply looking at a list of these are the things, these are our activities, will help you get a feeling for what the scope is that you want to include in your mission statement. Because by looking at the list of activities, you may be able to consolidate them in different ways. Certainly some will stand out more than others. You'll decide these are priorities above other ones. You want to know what everyone feels passionate about. That's probably a really critical component of your mission, or of your mission statement. Certainly it's a critical component of your mission. And then you want to know what needs to be included in your mission statement to avoid misrepresenting the organization. If your mission is to end hunger in the city of Baltimore, then you need to be specific about that in your mission statement in order to make it clear just what it is that you do. Also, you want to know the hot buttons. And this is really probably more for the person who's facilitating than for the group, but we want to be prepared for disagreement, which is a good thing as well as it's managed properly. So what are the uncertainties that are most likely to need your attention? That are likely to need the most attention. What are the gray areas where you can anticipate that there's going to be a lot of discussion and possibly some disagreement? Where is there dissent? Where are there real differences of opinion? And you need to be prepared to discuss those differences of opinion because ultimately everyone's got to own this. And then, are there topics or perspectives that are considered taboo that the organization is just, reluctant to talk about? Personally, I'm against refusing to discuss topics. I think that holds the organization back. If there's an unstated rule that we don't help people in Springfield because we disagree with their politics or because we had such a public failure there once or because they're cartoon characters, then we're going to have much more efficient discussion by putting that on the table. It's going to help us simply deal with it. Maybe we don't serve people in Springfield, but we need to acknowledge that as we're going through our process. Okay, how are we going to structure the discussion? The best way to contain a big discussion is to agree on the questions ahead of time. Just putting ideas into buckets helps people focus on what you want to talk about. It also eliminates drift into other topics. If you're going to get a group of people together to talk about something as broad and important as your mission, you want to be able to focus them on the key areas that you're looking to discuss. You can solicit questions from the participants in advance, but some of the kinds of examples would be what aspect of our work is most important, what needs to be included here, what could be conveyed in supporting statements rather than in the body of the mission statement. Prepare the participants. Get them backup materials ahead of time. Perhaps have some preliminary discussions before you get to the actual session or sessions where you're going to sit down and talk through the definition of the mission statement. And then create an agenda with time blocks and do your best to stick to it. In my experience, when I have an hour to achieve something with a group and they know I mean it, they'll get it done. If I'm hazy about the time, they're going to be hazy about the time. Then once you get the group together, you want to review the process. What's our goal? Remind them of the topics that you're going to cover. Talk about the ground rules for participation, which we'll talk about in a second. And remind people how decisions are going to be made. You also want to vary the way in which you present information for discussion. You can use visuals when the material permits, use a whiteboard to draw ideas or connect ideas, work in small groups, even in pairs if you're not a very large team, which is desirable not to be a very large team for this, and have other people report their findings to a larger group. Have people write things down on yellow sticky notes and organize them into categories. It's a great way to see what the most popular ideas are. Then, going back to my, my former statement, use a professional if you have the resources. Find someone you're comfortable with. Check their references. You know, I think of it this way. You could cut your own hair and keep it short enough so that it won't be in your eyes. But most people go to professional hair cutters. Why? Because professionals are trained, and it's highly likely that they practice this particular skill much more often than you do. They're just going to be more efficient. There, I'll get off my soapbox about using professionals. Ground rules, I find, are very, very helpful. To the degree that we can remind people we're pursuing a shared goal, this is going to be beneficial. Some ground rules that I like that very often seem to work are reminding people that all ideas are welcome. We want each person to commit to, I will listen carefully to what I resist most. People seem to really like this and use it very well in facilitations. Because when they catch themselves automatically dismissing something, that's the time to say, wait a minute, I'm going to give this room for a little credibility. Equal participation from everyone is key. We really do need to hear all voices. There are no taboo topics. We don't want people being afraid to say something in the room because, again, we're likely to miss or tiptoe around something that's so important that it's really going to color the whole rest of the discussion. And then if there's a confidentiality issue, people need to make a commitment to uphold the confidentiality agreement. That doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. Again, encourage productive disagreement. Don't let it get out of hand, and don't let it run in circles. But it's a very helpful thing to have. And also, if the group gets bogged down, focus them on the end goals. It neutralizes the personal tensions and reminds them of the urgent need to move forward in the best interest of the organization. I find that very, very helpful. You are likely in these discussions to encounter some emotions, some people disagreeing. But to the degree that you can focus on where you're going and why you're doing this and what you need from the process, that helps to dilute the personal involvement. Then you've got to tackle the questions. We've talked about what some of the questions are likely to be. But this is really more about phrasing questions so that you can get a broad range of response. Open questions are going to encourage discussion. What needs to be done that only we can do, or that we can do better than anyone else? This is what makes you distinctive. That's one of the things that you would like to have in your mission statement because people can identify you by it. Who benefits from our products or our services, from whatever we do, and how do they benefit? How do we accomplish our work? What are our tasks? That's that list of the things that we do. What do we value most? This is a very good way to get at priorities. And how broad or how narrow is our focus? Now, not all questions are going to be appropriate for all nonprofit organizations. You have to decide which questions work best for your nonprofit organization. Let's consider some other people's mission statements. Organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. What does this organization do? They organize information. They make it accessible. They make it useful. There's an implied issue of need. It's not stated. Who do they serve? Universally accessible, the world. They serve a big audience. Is this mission statement clear enough that you can figure out whose it is? Google, of course. Here's another organization that provides relief to victims of disasters and helps people prepare for and respond to emergencies. They provide relief. They help comfort. Who do they serve? They serve people, everyone. Where do they work? They don't specify. We could deduce that they work everywhere, or we could think that they left it out by accident. I doubt that leaving it out was an accident. I'm pretty sure they must have done that by choice. And the reason for them to exist is the reason to help people in emergencies is so obvious that they don't have to state it. Do you know who this is? Yes, American Red Cross. Here's another organization whose mission is to strengthen the nonprofit sector by advancing knowledge about U.S. philanthropy. How? They advance knowledge. The key is about U.S. philanthropy. That tells us something about this organization. It's about philanthropy in the United States. Why? They don't say, but there's an implied need. Here's another one that you ought to be able to guess. It's the foundation of this organization. Here's a big lofty one. To enable people and businesses throughout the world to realize their full potential. You think that's big enough? I guess they figure they've got government, schools, and religious institutions covered under people. If nothing else, the breadth of the work should lead you to be able to guess whose mission it is. That's right, Microsoft. In looking at these, and you can certainly find just about anyone's mission statement on their websites, and it's good to look around at some of them for examples. One of the things that it's important to notice is that all these mission statements start with verbs. The first thing they do is denote action, and that's a critical component of your mission statement. Okay, let's consider some other people's vision statements. A world without Alzheimer's disease. Is it clear? Is it inspiring? Is it ambitious? Certainly is. Is it possible? We don't know, but we know that this organization, that's their vision. That's what they want to see. Current and future media and telecommunications technologies promote and do not impede democratic values. You have to think about that. There are a lot of big words in it. But essentially, this is an organization that wants to make sure that democracy stays alive through the media, that the media doesn't interfere with democracy, it actually promotes it. The Media Access Project. Every child will be a wanted child. Regardless of your politics, and I assure you this is my example, the Foundation Center is not advocating anything here, you have to admit that every child will be a wanted child, meets the criteria for clear and inspiring. And this last one is very specific. It may not be very inspiring to you, but I bet it sends a clear message to the people who work at Microsoft. A personal computer in every home running Microsoft software. That's a pretty distinct, pretty simple, pretty clear vision. Once you've got mission and vision statements, you want to be able to use what you've created. What are you going to use them for? Define your organization to the world, a guide to your decision making, a reminder on your website, on your letterhead, on the wall of your office or in your boardroom. You want to use it to inspire your constituents, your clients, the community, board staff. It's there to turn to whenever you're making decisions, whenever you're thinking about the organization. It's there simply to go, oh yes, this is what we do. This is why we're here. And it's there to promote your cause when other people look at it and read it. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some steps you'll have to take between defining your mission and reaching your vision. I look at these in a hierarchy that starts with the broadest and moves to the narrowest. And I believe actually that the Foundation Center is going to be doing some work on planning in your next web seminar, so there may be some discussion about that later. First and broadest is the strategic plan. This is the priorities and broad means of achieving them over the next, roughly 3 to 5 years. This is intended to be in direct support of the mission. And this provides the tools for evaluating progress towards significant goals. That's followed by business planning. This is your annual operating plan. These are organization-wide activities that take place during the business year. They're supported by the annual budget. Again, they have a direct relationship with the strategic plan. The business plan is what we're going to do this year in support of the organization's strategies, which are in support of the organization's mission. This is the tool for evaluating staff performance at individual and team levels. Then the last plan, and not all organizations employ this, but it's certainly a good corollary to the business plan. These are the personal plans. Each staff member's plan for his or her own performance in that time period. This is the tool for evaluating individual performance and growth of each individual, of the people who are on your staff. Now, taking action, that's doing your work. You collect and distribute food, you present performances, you provide health care or education. It's also important, I mean, these are whatever the things are that you do. And so you are going to undertake your program work on a regular basis. You've got to. You're also going to, as part of it, measure your progress to make certain you know and you can tell donors that your work is having a positive impact. We're pretty far beyond the time when nonprofits just assume that doing good work ensures a successful outcome. But you want to look at the impact you're having on your audience. You also want to adapt and improve based on what you learn. This is the old continuous improvement concept where you constantly assimilate what you learn into your work, which often causes it to change. To set a broad example, if your mission is to spread the word about a communicable disease, you learned long ago that running a newspaper ad isn't enough. You have to have a means of communicating that reaches people who speak multiple languages, communicating with people who don't read newspapers or don't read at all, as well as those whose primary source of information is the Internet. There's a good chance you made more than one change along the way to incorporate these needs. Part of your action is also connecting with your community. If you're receiving foundation funding, you don't have to be told that collaboration sends the message that you're part of your community. This eliminates duplication of efforts. It provides more comprehensive services in many cases. The other step of taking action is to advocate for your cause. Most people with a cause want to know that their work can leverage other activity that will benefit their interest. You certainly want to educate your constituents, but you don't have to stop there. The IRS places a limit on the degree to which 501c3 nonprofits can lobby, but there's no limit on the degree to which they can educate. I leave it to the legal experts to help you make that distinction, but be alert to the possibilities. Education and advocacy are part of your action. Are we there yet? Believe it or not, some nonprofits achieve their mission. Not many do, and I think that's the nature that has to do with the nature of the fact that vision is very, very far away. So I think it's a reflection of ambition rather than a sign of failure. The March of Dimes achieved its mission. They could have said thank you very much, patted themselves on the back, and closed the doors. But they had brand recognition. They had a huge system for generating contributions for people with disabling diseases. They moved on to intercepting diseases at birth. In their most recent incarnation, they're focused on making sure babies are born healthy. So it's valuable to keep asking yourself how close you are over and over, both as a test of how near you're getting to your vision, but also as a test of how much progress are you making. Ask your clients. Ask your donors. Ask members of the community. Anyone who has a genuine interest in your nonprofit, are they seeing progress? Do they see evidence that things have changed as a result that you're doing? Learn from your successes and your failures. Modify your activity for constant improvement. We just talked about that. And don't be afraid to say, we've done it. Our work is through. That's the heart of our presentation. There's more information available at my website, and we are about to take questions.
Actually, I do have a question that came in online.
Good.
Someone questioning Microsoft mission and vision may be backwards. People and businesses throughout the world realizing their full potential, the ultimate goal, and may be more inspiring than a PC in every home running Microsoft software. So she's asking for your opinion on that.
Thank you. You know, I had not caught that, and I have to say I completely agree with you. I certainly agree in concept. A personal computer in every home running Microsoft isn't. I guess I could see it as a mission, and certainly enabling people in businesses throughout the world to realize their full potential is a more compelling vision statement than a personal computer in every home. And it does look like their intention is that a personal computer in every home should be the vehicle to achieving their goal. I think you have a good point. Thank you for that.
Okay, I was curious. You had mentioned something about the mission. I think you said the mission statement should be a verb, an action word. Is that correct, or am I getting that confused with the vision statement?
No, you are correct there. The organization's mission is to do something, to accomplish something.
Okay.
Vision is what they hope to accomplish. So the vision is an endpoint. The mission is the action that gets them to the endpoint. So I like to see mission statements always that begin with a verb or that feature a verb.
Okay. Yeah, the one I'm working with just basically starts out with "our mission is," and so I just didn't write that point down, and just wanted to clarify that. So thank you very much.
Sure. So your mission is to something.
Yes, to build something.
Good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. I enjoyed the opportunity to speak with you.